The woman in the mud, the jungle was thick and wet. Strange trees reached into the sky. The ground was soft with mud. Rain fell slowly, making everything dark and cold. Jake, a former human soldier, moved through the brush. He was alone. He had been alone for a long time. After the war, he came to this planet to forget. No people, no orders, just peace. But today, something felt different. He heard it first. A sound, soft like a whisper or a cry. Not an animal. It sounded like pain. He stopped, his hand on the old knife tied to his belt. Slowly, he moved toward the sound. Then he saw her. She was lying in the mud, barely moving. A woman, but not human. Her skin was pale gold, almost glowing under the rain. She was covered in dirt and blood. Long silver hair stuck to her face. She wore no clothes, only leaves and mud. Her body was thin, bones showing through the skin. She looked half dead. Jake's eyes widened. She looked like something from a dream or a nightmare. He took a step closer. The woman's eyes opened. They were bright violet and full of fear. She tried to crawl back but was too weak. Her body shook. Her lips moved, but no words came. She reached out, then pulled back like she thought he would hurt her. Jake raised, his hand slowly. "Hey," he said, voice calm. "I won't hurt you. It's okay." She didn't understand him. Or maybe she didn't believe him. Jake looked around. The jungle was quiet, but not safe. This place was full of hunters, creatures, with sharp teeth and no mercy. And if she stayed here, she would die. He took off his coat and placed it near her. She didn't move. He pulled a ration bar from his pack, unwrapped it, and placed it in front of her. Still nothing. Then he heard it. A clicking sound. His blood turned cold. He turned his head. In the trees behind them, two yellow eyes watching. A tree crawler. An alien predator, fast, deadly. He had to move now. Jake scooped the woman into his arms. She was lighter than he expected. Too light. Like a child. She screamed softly, but he held her close. "It's okay. I got you." The crawler hissed and jumped from the tree. Jake ran. His boots slipped in the mud, but he didn't stop. The creature followed, fast and silent. Jake reached his hut, a small metal shelter half buried in the hill. He kicked open the door and slammed it behind him. The creature crashed into the wall outside, growling. Jake locked the door and backed away, breathing hard. The woman was still in his arms, staring up at him with wide eyes. "You're safe now," he said, setting her down on a pile of blankets. "You're okay." She looked around like a trapped animal. She tried to sit up but fell back with a cry. Jake brought a small bottle of water and held it to her lips. She hesitated, then drank fast. Too fast. She choked and coughed. "Easy," he said gently. "Slow down." He gave her more food. She ate with shaking hands. Her eyes never left his. After some time, she fell asleep, her body still trembling. Jake sat by the door watching her. He noticed strange marks on her back. Not wounds, not tattoos. Brands. Someone had burned her. Repeatedly. His hands clenched into fists. Who did this to her? He didn't know what species she was. He didn't know why she was here or how she ended up in the jungle. But he knew one thing. She needed help, and he wasn't going to leave her. Not like this. Midnight. Jake woke to a sound. The woman was screaming in her sleep. He rushed to her side. She flinched when he touched her shoulder, her eyes wide with terror. She looked around, confused. Jake knelt beside her. "It's just a dream," he said softly. "You're safe, I promise." She looked at him, and for the first time she didn't look afraid. Just tired. So very tired. She closed her eyes again. Jake sat down, watching her breathe. Outside, the jungle howled. Inside, the alien woman slept. And Jake knew This was just the beginning. She doesn't trust him. The next morning, sunlight pushed through the trees and slipped into the small metal hut. Jake sat in the corner, his back against the wall, holding a warm cup of tea. He hadn't slept. His eyes stayed on the alien woman. She was curled under the old blanket, breathing slowly. Her silver hair had dried but was still tangled. Her arms hugged her chest, and the coat Jake had given her lay across her shoulders. He noticed her eyes open slightly. She watched him, quiet, careful, like a wild animal. Jake smiled gently. "Good morning," he said. She didn't reply. He tried again. "Are you hungry?" Still nothing. Just those glowing violet eyes staring into him. Jake reached into a bag and pulled out another food bar. He placed it on the floor and pushed it toward her. She didn't move. He stood up and walked away to give her space. Behind him, he heard a sound, the quiet rustle of the food wrapper. She was eating. Jake exhaled slowly. Good. But something felt off. He turned back around and froze. She was holding his knife, not the one on the table, the one from his belt. He hadn't even noticed her taking it. She stood, weak but ready, pointing, the blade at him. Her hands shook. Her knees bent slightly. Her eyes burned with fear. Jake raised both hands slowly. "It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." She said something in her own language. Sharp. Fast. Like she was warning him. Then, she coughed and her legs buckled. She dropped the knife and fell to her knees. Jake rushed forward, but she hissed at him like a cornered creature. He stopped. They stared at each other in silence. Then slowly, she picked up the knife again. Not to attack, but to cut the food bar in half. She pushed one piece toward him and kept the other. Jake blinked. Was this a peace offering? He nodded and sat down slowly. "Thank you." They ate together in silence. For a few moments, the air between them softened. Then Jake pointed at himself. "Jake." He said it again. "Jake." She stared, then touched her own chest. "Alira," she whispered. Jake smiled. "Alira." She flinched like the sound hurt, but she didn't stop him from saying it. That night, Jake worked on the generator outside the hut. The air smelled of moss and danger. He kept his rifle close. This jungle was full of things that hunted in the dark. Inside, Alira sat on the floor wrapped in a blanket. She studied the walls, the lights, and the tools Jake had collected. She moved slowly, still weak, but her eyes missed nothing. She picked up a small silver object from the shelf, an old earth toy, a tiny plastic soldier. She stared at it. Then, at Jake. He walked in and noticed. "That's from my world," he said softly. She pointed at the toy. "Warrior?" Jake nodded. "Yes, like me." She looked at him, then touched the brand marks on her own skin. Jake understood what she was saying without words. She had been forced into something too. War, pain, captivity. She pointed at her chest. "Zereth." Jake didn't understand. "Is that your home?" Alira closed her eyes. A tear fell down her cheek. She whispered something else. Soft. Broken. Jake sat down near her, keeping some distance. "You're safe now. I promise." She looked at him, and for the first time her eyes softened. Not full trust, but maybe the start of it. Then a light blinked red on Jake's comm device. A warning. Someone had found them, outside the hut, hidden. Up in the sky, a satellite focused its lens on the jungle clearing. A small red tag locked onto the hut's roof. Subject identified. Alien specimen. Detected status. High-value escapee location. Logged mission. Extraction unit en route. The truth about her kind night fell again. The jungle outside was loud with strange creatures. The wind howled. The trees whispered secrets only they could understand. Inside the hut, Jake worked silently. He checked the sensors, tightened a few wires, and kept glancing at the blinking red light on his panel. Someone had spotted them, but he didn't tell Alira. Not yet. She sat near the fire, her eyes watching the flames. Her silver hair glowed in the soft light. She didn't look like the same frightened creature he had carried in from the mud. She was healing, but her silence still held weight, like something was buried deep inside her, something painful. Jake handed her a blanket and sat across from her. "Alira," he said softly, "I want to help, but I need to know. Who's looking for you?" She looked up slowly. Her eyes were tired, ancient. Then, for the first time, she spoke clearly. "They broke my stars." Jake blinked. "What?" She placed her hand over her chest. "My people were light, living stars. We shared minds. We shared dreams." Jake listened, silent. "They came," she whispered. "They put chains on our light, cut us open, took our voices." "Who?" Jake asked. She looked at him. "The collectors. They hunt rare life. They keep us in cages, study us, use us." Jake's jaw tightened. "And you escaped?" Alira nodded. "I ran when the ship crashed. They don't let anyone leave." She pulled out a small, broken device from under her blanket. It was burned, sparking, and strange. "This was part of my neural link," she said. "It connected me to my people, before they were silenced." Jake gently took it. "Can I fix it?" Alira looked surprised. Then, hopeful. "Maybe." But hope didn't last long. Suddenly, the lights inside the hut flickered. Jake turned to the console. A new signal appeared on the screen. Red. Close. Unknown. Craft entering atmosphere, ETA. 12 minutes. He stood up fast. "They're coming." Alira stood too, breathing faster. "They found me." Jake grabbed his gear and tossed her a small pouch. "Pack what you can, we're moving." But Alira didn't move. She looked down at the broken device. "We can't run. If I lose this, I lose the last of them." Jake knelt beside her. "Then we don't run." She looked confused. Jake smiled slightly. "We fight." 10 minutes. Later they were outside in the darkness. Jake had set up traps, old soldier tricks. He placed noise mines, tripwires, and cloaking sprays around the clearing. His rifle was loaded. His knife was sharp. Alira stood beside him, no longer weak, no longer afraid. She wore a cloak made from Jake's spare clothes and armor scraps. She looked like a ghost from a forgotten war. Jake turned to her. "If they try to take you, don't hold back." She nodded slowly. "I won't." A low hum filled the sky. A black ship appeared above the trees, smooth, silent, deadly. It hovered like a vulture. Then, shh. The ship dropped 3 pods. They slammed into the ground, hissing as they opened. 3 armored soldiers stepped out. Their suits were dark, their faces hidden. Their weapons glowed blue. One of them spoke through a loudspeaker. "Return the specimen, or face termination," Jake shouted back. "She's not a specimen, she's a person." The soldier raised his gun. "You've been warned." Jake fired first. The battle began. They come for her. Blaster fire lit up the jungle. Trees exploded. The air burned. Jake dove behind a metal crate, rifle in hand. The enemy soldiers were fast, faster than anything he'd fought before. But Jake had one thing they didn't. Experience. He didn't aim to win. He aimed to delay. He fired a shot, then moved, through a small mine. Heard it explode behind him. Screams followed. That was 1 down. 2 left. Behind a tree, Alira knelt with her hands glowing faintly. Not with fire, not with power, with light. pure living light. Jake shouted, "Now, Alira!" She stood tall, she raised her hands, and the air shimmered. A pulse of light flew from her fingers, hitting one soldier in the chest. His armor sparked. He collapsed, twitching. Jake blinked. "Whoa!" She looked at him. "I'm done running." The last soldier roared and charged. Jake stepped in front of Alira. He raised his knife, but before he could strike, the soldier froze mid-step. His body floated into the air, glowing. Alira had lifted him without touching him. She squeezed her hand. The soldier screamed as light filled his helmet, bursting it from within. Silence returned. Only smoke and burned leaves remained. Jake turned to her. "Remind me never to get on your bad side." Alira didn't smile. She was breathing hard, shaking. Too much power, too fast. She collapsed. Jake caught her before she hit the ground. Her skin was hot, glowing like starlight under her skin. He laid her gently on a soft patch of grass. She whispered, "They won't stop. More will come." Jake nodded. "Then we hit first." He looked at the broken neural device on the ground, still sparking. It wasn't just tech. It was a key. Maybe to something hidden. Something big. Something they feared. 2 hours later, Jake dug through the ground behind his hut. Alira had told him about it during brief moments of clarity. Her people had left something behind here. A sleeping ship, buried deep, buried in mud and stone. He found a hard surface under the dirt. He brushed away the layers. Metal, alien metal, shaped like a wing. Alira woke and stood beside him. Her voice was weak. "It's part of my people's ark." Jake looked at her. "Is it still alive?" She knelt and pressed her palm against the cold metal. Nothing happened. Then her skin glowed. So did the metal. A soft hum filled the air, and the ground began to shake. Vines pulled back, rocks shifted, the jungle roared in protest, and slowly, a massive silver ship started rising from the ground, half alive, half broken. Alira smiled through her tears. "My home," she whispered. "My family's legacy." Jake stepped back, stunned. He had come to this planet to forget war. But now, he had walked into a war far older, and he wasn't walking away. What she really is, the earth still trembled. Jake stood in silence, staring at the silver ship that had risen from the jungle. It wasn't just metal. It breathed. It pulsed with soft blue light like it had a heart of its own. Alira stepped forward, her bare feet touching the damp earth. Her hair shimmered like a silver river flowing behind her. Her body still trembled from using her power, but her eyes held something new. Not fear. Purpose. She walked up to the ship's entrance. It didn't have a door. It had a mind. The surface rippled at her touch. Like water. Then it opened. Jake followed her inside. The air changed, warm, calm, almost sad. Inside, the walls glowed with soft colors, shifting like stars in the night. Shapes floated in the air, light forms, memories. Alira raised her hand and the ship responded. It spoke in her language. Soft, ancient. Jake couldn't understand the words, but he understood the feeling. This ship remembered her. Suddenly, dozens of glowing images filled the chamber, tall beings like Alira, full of light and grace, laughing, singing, holding hands. Then, flashes of fire, screams, chains, the collectors. Jake watched as the memories played out like ghosts in the room. Alira fell to her knees. "These are my people," she whispered. "They are gone. All of them." Jake knelt beside her. "You're not." She looked at him. "I was a child when they were taken. I hid in a crystal chamber. I heard them cry for me. I heard them burn." Her hands shook as she held the broken neural device. This was my connection to the core. My mind was part of the ship. I was born to lead it, but I was never ready. Jake touched her shoulder. Then be ready now. Alira looked at him, then stood, and as she did, the light around her grew brighter. The ship responded. A panel rose from the floor, a small pedestal. She placed the device on it. It sank in. The ship's walls flashed. Suddenly, a voice filled the chamber. English this time. Command link reconnected. Bloodline confirmed. Zerethian queen blood present. Reactivation in progress. Jake blinked. Queen blood? Alira turned toward him. I am the last of my kind, and by right, I am queen. Jake stepped back, speechless. She smiled softly. But I cannot rule alone. I cannot win alone. He met her eyes. What do you need? She answered without words. She simply held out her hand. Jake took it, and the ship came to life. Far above, in low orbit, a collector warship detected the activation. An alarm sounded. Zerethian core signal active. Impossible. They were extinct. Prepare all units. The Queen lives. Back in the jungle, the ancient ship glowed brighter and brighter, rising higher above the treetops. Jake looked out through the crystal wall, the jungle now far below. I came here to disappear, he said. Alira stood beside him in glowing robes the ship had given her. Her face was calm, regal. She looked at him. And now you will be seen. By all. Jake smirked. Guess peace will have to wait. Her people's legacy. The starship floated above the jungle, half covered in mist and glowing, like a silver moon. Inside, the lights danced along the walls, reacting to Alira's presence. The ship remembered her blood, her soul. She was no longer a lost girl in the mud. She was now the last living queen of a fallen race. Jake stood in the command chamber, trying to understand what he was seeing. The ship was alive. It moved like it could feel. It answered to Alira without words. Alira walked to a control pillar and touched it with her palm. The air shimmered and a hologram filled the room. A galaxy map. Dozens of blinking stars, some marked in blue, most in red. Jake stepped closer. What are those red ones? Alira's face darkened. Worlds my people lost. Burned by the collectors. Turned into labs, prison cages. She pointed to one blinking red dot. Close to their planet. That one is still active. It's where they break survivors. And it's where they keep. She paused. The child mines. Jake looked confused. Child mines? She explained slowly. My people don't die the way humans do. When our bodies break, our minds are stored in the core. Like memory crystals. Jake's eyes widened. You mean, your people are still alive? In pieces? Alira nodded. Yes. But if the collectors destroy that core, then we are truly gone. The ship responded to her words. It shifted, groaned, awoke. Panels opened, armor floated into place, weapons hummed to life. Jake felt the air grow warmer. This ship, Alira whispered, was not made for escape. It was built for protection, for war. Jake touched the nearest wall. You're saying it's a battleship? Alira nodded. It was our last hope, buried to sleep through time. Jake looked out through the ship's glass front. The jungle seemed so small now. He turned to her. Then let's wake it up completely. Later that night, Jake trained, inside the ship's chamber. It had created weapons for him, human style, but lighter, smarter. He strapped on a new suit, thin but strong as armor. Alira watched him quietly. You're ready to fight again? She asked softly. Jake shrugged. I never really stopped. Alira walked to a small, glowing orb. Then let me show you one. Last thing. She touched it. The ship's walls dissolved into light, revealing a memory. Jake saw her as a child, laughing under twin suns. Her mother, tall, glowing like a goddess, placed a small crown on her head. Then, the sky turned dark. Ships descended, Flames, screams, a cage. The memory faded. Jake looked at her. I'm sorry, Alira stood tall. Don't be. It made me who I am. Suddenly, an alarm blared. Red lights flashed inside the ship. Jake rushed to the control pillar. What is it? A voice spoke. Incoming vessel. Class, Collector Warship. Arrival in 2 hours. Alira's eyes narrowed. They're here. Jake loaded his rifle. Then let's give them something they won't forget. In orbit, a Collector warship hovered in space like a black shark, scanning the planet below. Commander Varric, a tall reptilian alien, snarled at the screen. Impossible. The Queen blood signal is real. Another soldier bowed. Shall we destroy the planet? No, Varric hissed. Capture the ship. Bring her back alive. We want her power, not her ashes. Back on the jungle moon, Jake and Alira stood at the ship's command deck. Alira turned to him, eyes glowing like twin stars. Are you afraid? Jake smiled faintly. Only of losing. She reached out, took his hand and whispered, Then let's win. The ancient starship began to rise, higher and higher. It wasn't hiding anymore. It was hunting. The warrior and the queen, the stars stretched like rivers above the jungle moon. The ancient starship, Zereth's last light, rose high into orbit, its silver hull glowing with power it hadn't used in centuries. Lights pulsed along its wings. Deep inside, the voice of the ship spoke again. Queen blood active. Primary weapons charged. Target locked. Alira stood at the heart of the ship, no longer the lost girl in the mud. She wore Zerethian battle robes, woven with light, pulsing with her people's spirit. A faint golden crown hovered above her head, held there by the ship's neural link. Beside her stood Jake, suited in living armor, shaped by the ship for him alone. Human design mixed with alien strength. He looked less like a soldier now, more like a knight. You ready for this? Jake asked, tightening his gloves. Alira nodded, her voice calm. I've waited my whole life to stop running. Outside, the Black Collector warship approached. Massive. Ugly. Armed with every weapon known in the galaxy. They had taken hundreds of worlds, enslaved thousands of species. They weren't afraid of anything. Until now. Inside the Collector ship, Commander. Varric growled as the screen showed Alira's vessel. Fire at will. Missiles launched. Energy beams flashed. Zereth's ship didn't move, it blinked. One moment it was there. The next, it vanished. Jake held onto the railing. Did we just disappear? Alira smiled faintly. Phase shift. My people could walk between layers of time. Jake laughed nervously. I'm starting to think I really don't understand your people. The ship reappeared behind the Collector vessel. Target weak points, Alira said. Jake raised his hand. The ship linked with his thoughts. Weapons locked, he whispered. Fire. A blast of blue-white energy struck the enemy engines. The Collector, ship rocked, lights flickering. Inside the enemy ship, damage to engine core, shouted a soldier. Varric hissed. Send the hunters. Capture her. Dozens of small fighter pods launched, fast, sharp, deadly. They raced toward Zereth's ship like a swarm of wasps. Jake's eyes narrowed. Time for old-school tactics. He jumped into the flight bay, into a smaller fighter the ship had created. Just for him. Humanoid in shape, like an armored exosuit with wings. Alira touched the crown on her head. Be careful. Jake smiled. You forgot. I'm human. We break things. The sky became fire. Jake's suit soared through the stars, dodging lasers, crushing drones, laughing through the chaos. He was fast, unpredictable. He broke formation. He improvised. The Collectors didn't understand that. Humans didn't always fight to win. Sometimes, they fought so others could live. Back on the ship, Alira spread her arms. She whispered in her language, and the ship itself sang. A sound, ancient and full of grief, echoed through the stars. The Collector ship began to shake. Their computers went blind. Their minds heard voices. The voices of the Zerethian dead. The ship had remembered every soul it lost, and now it was letting them speak. Varric fell to his knees. No. No. It's not possible. It was. Jake landed his fighter back inside the ship, breathing hard, smiling. Alira stood waiting. It's done, she whispered. Jake nodded. They're running. No, she said. They're finished. The collector ship turned and exploded into dust, silent, final. Hours later, the stars were peaceful again. Alira stood on the deck, looking at the glowing galaxy map. Jake joined her, quiet. She turned to him. There are others still trapped, still hunted. Jake looked at her. Then let's go get them. Alira smiled. Together? He nodded. You gave me a reason to fight again. She stepped closer. You gave me a reason to hope again. They stood side by side, the last Queen of Light, and the human who helped her rise. The stars waited for them. And so, the legend began. Of the woman in the mud, and the man who chose to help her. The end.